Alrighty, we'll go ahead and kick things off here. Thanks everybody for joining. To kind of start, I guess my name is Andy Larson. I'm our Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. So I work closely with all of our current and prospective channel partners across the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and a handful of other countries that we're in. And today I'm joined with Shannon Neubauer. Shannon is our Chief Operating Officer. Been with us a while now, and really the brains behind a lot of the hardware integrations that we're going to get into here today. So Shannon's worked in the field, a couple decades now, just over 20, 25 years of experience. So really a good helping hand when you guys have any questions on how to piggyback systems, how to wire certain things up, anything and everything that might be needed. He and his team are here to help. So with that, we also have a Q&A section as well. So while we're going through some of these integrated hardware solutions today, wiring questions, anything at all, don't hesitate to throw in the Q&A there. We'll be moderating those to answer those questions as they come. So with that, we'll kind of jump into, for those of you who don't know what Geokey is or kind of how we got our start, what makes us unique from some of the other competitors in the market. Kind of really what we got or how we got started is really in the small business and gym industry. Started off with a need to make a non-transferable key, right? Get rid of the key fobs, not having to meet people in person every time someone wants to sign up or join your facility or come into the office. And the big thing is just overall security. So we saw a need for a non-transferable key here. And then we relayed all that back to geolocational services. So making sure that you are within proximity of that facility, you are there, and then that relays all back to the data analytics that we have as well. So you can see there why Geokey. Obviously, Geokey gives business owners and users a simplified access control system right on their mobile device. So with our online portal, we give owners and managers a single pane of glass to see all the data behind their business, see who's entering the facility in real time, and then revoke or take away access instantly, just within a couple of seconds. So to touch on that non-transferable key, kind of what we're seeing and causing a disruption within the industry is moving it to your mobile device. It's been requested for years, just hasn't been a perfect solution for it. So that's what we're after here. So another big thing that we get a lot of requests on, or questions on, I should say, is the traditional key fobs. Those can be easily copied through RFID duplicators, other devices, whereas Geokey is uniquely identified to that phone and that person's credentials. So
I'm sure for a lot of you that have been in the business for a while, you've seen the little duplicators that you can buy on Amazon or the Wish app, for $5 or $10, and take somebody's card if it's a 26-bit prox card and duplicate that and show them. I know I used to use that to sell other higher security credentials in the field. I'd take somebody's 26-bit card and duplicate it, go walk out to a door and show them that they had just read it, even though they hadn't. And that usually helped me sell some of those multi-class style readers at the time when I was in that part of the industry. So.
Yeah. So kind of moving on from that, at the end of the day, we are just a software company. So similar to the Ubers and Airbnbs of the world, there's some of the top providers in taxi services and real estate and homes to rent a place to stay. So they don't own a single property or own a single taxi. And that's how we kind of approach this. We want to be great in what we do in the software side of things with a world-class mobile app, an online portal, and really perfect this, and then go after and find these integrators with really good hardware solutions and integrate with them to make a really good partnership together. So if you haven't seen before, you can request a demo with anyone on our sales team to run through this portal that you're looking at on our screen. Also show you a live version of the mobile app. So show you at the end of the day the full management software to where you can send, retract Geokeys within a matter of a second or two right from our online portal. And kind of at the end of this, we're going to touch on some things that are coming soon. And one of those is within our new mobile app. We'll be one of the first mobile access credentials to give admin the ability to add a user right from their mobile device. So they won't have to be at a computer. They can be anywhere in the world, log onto their Geokey mobile app, add a user or retract a user just within a couple of seconds.
And so if you haven't done a demo with our team yet, I'd encourage you to get one scheduled. They can actually send you a Geokey credential right to your phone during the demo, and you can unlock one of our demo boards that we have. We don't put any smoke and mirrors behind that. There's a couple of different access points on those demo boards, and you can pick which one you want to light. We've got a blue light and an orange light on most of the demo boards, and then you can swipe on that and see that change in real time. So you're the one that gets to pick that. It's not something that we just do on the back end here.
With that, we'll kind of dive right into the first few ones here. So again, if you guys have any questions throughout this, we're going to jump right into our first integration, which is with Access Communications. So first and foremost, we're going to have here the Access A1001. Also, in a few other slides, we'll show the 1601, but these are network-based door controllers. So Shannon, I'll kind of let you dive into some of their main functions, what all goes along with these, and a few other details. And again, if you guys have any questions at all during these, shoot them into the Q&A and we'll field them as they come. So.
Sure, you bet. So I've got a diagram up here of the 1001, a picture of what that board actually looks like. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Access Communications as a camera manufacturer. They actually developed the 1001, I think it was back in 2015. I actually worked for them for a few years as a regional sales manager, but I think it was 2015 that they launched the 1001. It was their first entry into access control. And we've got a pretty tight integration with their products. So on the 1001, you're able to control two doors. I'll hover my mouse up here, but the lock outputs on this controller are right here. One nice thing on their controllers is that they color code a lot of the terminal strips. So that orange 4-pin strip on the right-hand side, on the lower row of those, that's where your lock output is. The negative H1 is for lock 1. The negative H2 is for lock 2. You also have the option on this controller on door 2 to use a dry relay over here, where the star REL star is. Terminals 2 and 3 there are actually a relay that you can program for door 2. So if you're using a external power supply, you can series one leg of that through the relay here, and then in the programming of that panel, you tell it if it's going to be normally open or normally closed, whether you're going to have that fail safe or fail secure lock. Unfortunately, this controller, because it was their first iteration, does not have the ability to do two dry contacts on it. And we'll get into that on the 1601, which is the newer version of the controller in a few minutes here. But basically here you can tie readers in. If you've ever used one of these, Access has a free software that comes with the controller. It's very basic, does a couple hundred users in it. It'll let you program cards and fobs. And I had done a couple of installs with that on some small projects. So if you've done some of those, you've got a couple of those running out there. Geokey is a super simple overlay to give those customers a mobile credential if you've got those panels in the field already. The couple of pieces of information that we need off of these controllers is going to be the serial number or the MAC, which is down here located on that sticker, and then the owner authentication key, or the OAK. When you receive these controllers, you buy them through your Access distributor, whoever that might be. Inside the box for each controller, you're going to get a little piece of paper with the booklet. It's a separate piece in there that has the MAC and the OAK. And when you fill out the Geokey onboarding form, we actually have a spot for you to put those pieces of information in. We utilize the Access One-Click Connect, or what they call an O3C. It's a one-click cloud connect. So when you enroll this controller, you don't have to set up a static IP. You don't have to do any port forwarding. We usually don't have to get an IT manager or anybody involved in getting this set up on the network. You literally plug the network port in, which on the 1001 is right down here. And then the reset button for this controller is on the bottom down here. So you plug it in. After the controller powers up, there's 3 LEDs on the left up here that will turn green about 90 to 120 seconds after you power it up. You push that button for 5 to 8 seconds and the controller will start to phone home. The way that works is it actually hits a dispatch server that Access owns, checks in, basically gives it the serial number and the OAK, and then that dispatch server relays it to our O3C server that's up and running. So there's a couple of layers of security there. Number one, the serial number, the OAK, and also it gets a server certificate from our server to validate that connection. So there's multiple layers of security built in that. You have the option on this controller to power it with DC in here. So you can power it on 12 or 24-volt DC. I think the specs actually say 10 to 28 volts. So you can do a 12 or 24-volt DC power supply if you don't have PoE available, or if you want that DC on there. So you can provide a battery backup. You certainly have the option to do that. Or it'll run on PoE. It's class 3, so 15 watts in. A couple of limitations here on your outputs: 450 milliamps out per lock output. So depending on what you're running for locks, you may or may not need external power for that. And if you know you're going to use external power, or the lock you're using is something that's going to be over that 450 milliamp budget at 12 volts, or you just want to run 24-volt locks as your standard, maybe you're putting in a Ultronics or Life Safety or some other type of multi-door power supply, we're happy to help provide a wiring diagram and those type of things to help you get this set up. Maybe you have to use an external relay like an RBST or an L912 or something along that line, but you've definitely got options. On the door in down here, your door in 1 and door in 2, those obviously correspond to your lock 1 and lock 2. The first input, the one on the left, is for your door position switch or door contact. The second one would be for your Rex if you were tying a Rex motion into it. And then in the programming, in the initial setup of that controller, that's where if your technician says, hey, I have a door contact and I've got a Rex, we can tie those in through the initial programming of the controller. We have some dealers that are pretty familiar and do that initial programming on their own. If you're not, don't worry about it. We're happy to help out with that too. Once we get the controller connected and we can log into it, we're happy to help program that initial part as well.
Yeah. The one thing I want to touch on too is that kind of top left white plug-in there that Shannon touched on is again for that card reader. With existing systems, we talk to a lot of business owners and small businesses, large businesses all over the place that they want to get rid of key fobs, right? But they have that card reader on the outside of the door. And so what we've done in a few scenarios is we've used that card reader not to continue with key fobs because they can do it if they want to, but they've still been able to plug in and use just the light. So, a small business has a mag lock. They want a way for folks to know when that door is unlocked. They can still tie in and use that red and green light off of the card reader to signify that the door is being unlocked. So people kind of have an idea of what's going on. So that is something that we can do. The other thing I want to touch on a little bit was the mag lock for your request to exit, those types of features as well. Shannon, if you could kind of point out where those would go into and how that would be all put together with this.
Sure. So as Andy said, we can tie in. So you've got your reader data 1 on the left on that gray terminal strip, reader data 2 on the right. So if you've got a card reader out there where they want to utilize that LED to get the red and green or whatever colors they might be programmed for, we can definitely set that up and tie that reader in so that when the lock's in an unlocked state, it will turn green or whatever colors you have your reader programmed for if they're a custom color. But typically red and green is what they're set up for. If you're doing the fail safe or fail secure, obviously a mag lock is going to be a fail safe lock. When we set the controller up in the initial programming, we tell it if that relay is going to be basically the way that the language is in the programming says if the relay is open, is the door locked or unlocked. So we set it up according to what lock you have set up. Obviously, if you're putting mag locks on, make sure you follow your local fire codes and provide the 2 forms of egress or whatever else they may have from your local AHJ. There's our AHJ disclaimer for the day. But typically we see the Rex motion get plugged into that second input, either on door 1 or door 2. And then the Rex button, best practice, I think, is to break your power, physically break the power to the lock if you have that button as your second backup.
And we have install diagrams, wiring diagrams on all these as well. So obviously Shane has a wealth of knowledge. Our whole support team does as well to help with any of these. But if you guys are ever out on a job site, need questions, or prior to going out to install, we can always provide those types of documents. We've been able to whip together some wiring diagrams on old systems to kind of piggyback if they do want to use a few card readers or anything like that. We can put those together for you guys. That's what we're here for. So.
Yeah, we've had customers that have an existing system that they're not ready to take out yet because they've got hundreds of cards on it, etc. And then we've taken and made it as simple as using this relay to trigger the Rex input on their existing system that now adds Geokey as a mobile credential to their system. So if you've got an application like that where you're not sure if we'd fit, we'd love to talk to you about it and see if there's a way we can make that work. Yeah, we're happy to help out any way we can. Axis does a great job on their site with documentation. They've got like 6 or 8 different possible wiring diagram scenarios. Some of theirs can get a little confusing because they use things like PoE splitters and that. If you need one specific to the hardware that you have, I know I drew one up for a guy that was using an XMS request to exit motion and then an EEB button. I mean, we'll go grab the diagram for that and help your installers get through that if they're uncomfortable with that too. So I'm going to jump ahead here to the 1601. So this is the second version of an Axis controller from Axis Communications. I know saying Axis and Axis is a little confusing, but this one is also a 2-door controller. This has a few features updated. You can see on the right-hand side here, they changed the locations for quite a few things on the board. Your readers are now laid down here. One thing I'll point out here, that was one thing I brought up to them when I worked there on the 1001 is your reader power was on a separate terminal strip from all of your data, which doesn't make much sense in the access control world. So they took some of that feedback. I hope that I had a little part in that, but they put the voltage, the 12 volts for your reader on the same terminal strip in the 1601s. Your door inputs are going to be similar for your Rexes and your door position switch. Your relays have moved, so they are up here now. Relay 1 for door 1, relay 2 for door 2. They added a couple of cool features on this controller. Number 1, your network on this will now run PoE class 4. So you can do PoE plus on this controller, where the 1001 was only 15 watts and it kind of limited what you had available for your locks. This one will run PoE plus, so you can do 30 watts, and your output at 12 volts goes up to 1300 milliamps if you're powering it off of PoE plus or class 4 PoE. So it gives you a little bit more juice to run those locks. The other cool thing, you can still bring in your 12 or 24 volt power supply here for DC in. You can actually hook a sealed lead acid battery directly up to this controller now too, to provide battery backup. So that's a feature that they didn't have on the other one, but you have the option to hook up that battery here. The other cool thing on the relays here, you have the option to use it as a dry contact, or there's jumpers up here at the top that you can flip it to be 12 volt wet output or a 24 volt wet output. The caveat on the 24 is you need to be powering the controller with 24 volts. It will not push that off of the PoE. You're limited to 12 volts only there, but it does give you a lot more options and not having to use an external relay like you would off the 1001. So if you're doing 2 doors and your standard as a company is, hey, I want to power all my locks at 24 volts and we use an 8 output power supply as our standard, that's no problem. The 1601 is probably the better way to go for a controller. I think there's around $100 difference between the two, and they're both still readily available from Axis. Just a matter of what you want to do as a company for your standards.
Awesome. So next, we're going to jump into a nice feature that we have within Axis's network as well of their controllers. I guess I skipped over these, see if there's anything on there. Okay.
No, those are just additional pictures from the 1601.
Yep.
That's what the board actually looks like. It just didn't have the nice information on what hooked up where.
Yep.
So I skipped over those, but the board's actually green. That's
Yeah.
what it looks like. The reset button moved instead of being on the bottom. That's the other one. It's up here, but again, 5 to 8 seconds. You press that button. We've pre-enrolled that so that Axis dispatch server knows to look for it, and the one-click connect works just the same.
And we have all the information off these controllers. So when you guys go to install or set up an install date, we are going to ask for this information prior to, because what we do on our back end is we get their portal set up, we get everything labeled correctly as to where it should go within their portal. So when you guys are out on site and you plug this in, it's just a matter of a couple of seconds. We've got the doors associated to that controller already set up, labeled within their portal, and they're ready to go. I've even got some guys, they'll do these in the office. They'll plug them in, get everything, powered up, program the controller in their office. So then when they get out on the job site, they don't have to make a single phone call. They plug it in, they test it on their own phone as a super admin through our Geokey mobile app. They see that it fires and they know their job there is done. So
yeah, that's a good point that Andy brought up. So with us using the one-click connect server, you could literally plug these in on the bench 2 or 3 days or a week, or Maybe when you get the controller, you want to have somebody plug it in. As long as we have the information for what the doors are going to be called, we'll get all of that set up. So when your tech gets on site, he can get it plugged into the network, or the controller could already be programmed, and he can concentrate on getting the install done on the door and not have to worry about those port forwarding things or how do I get this connected. Uh, we've got 2 channel partners right now that's their standard now is they put the controller on the bench, they let us know it's on, we get that all programmed, and then literally when they take it out to the site, that thing's already set up to phone home, and we can get everything ready to go so their tech can test it and show the customer how it works. Part of that onboarding form too is we make sure we get the main point of contact, and we'll actually reach out and get a portal walkthrough scheduled with them so that they know how to enroll users. And one other feature that we'll do too, if they send us a CSV or some other type of format, we'll actually enroll their initial batch of users. We've got a gym that's coming on this week that's got 1,300 users that we're going to get that initial load done for them, and then walk them through how to add users after that. So.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, is, we don't expect our channel partners or anybody to be experts on our software, right? That's what we're here for. So we like to give you guys enough information, as I always say, enough to be dangerous, enough to communicate with the customer if needed. But if you guys don't want to run through too much high level detail with them on the software side of things that Geokey offers, you can pass them off to us. We will gladly take a customer through an overview, show them what the portal looks like, and make sure they know what everything looks like before the install date comes along.
So the next piece of hardware that we have here is the Axis 9188, which is an 8 output or 8 relay output module. It's got some digital inputs. I've got the board up here in one of the enclosures. This is actually a 9188 VE, which is in their weatherproof enclosure if you had to mount it outside. But there's digital inputs on the board up here that can be programmed to do different things. You can bring DC in. They colored these the same as on the 1001 and 1601, which is nice. So you can power that 12, 24 volts, your choice, or it'll run on PoE also. So you plug your network cable in. Reset button on this guy to get it connected, I believe, is right there on the board. But this gives you 8 outputs that are individually configurable. A lot of times we see these used for elevators. So you can take a 1001 or a 1601, and over the network, you can virtually control up to 2 of these boards off of that 1001 or 1601 controller. So off that door controller, you can have up to 16 outputs available to configure. Like I said, typically that's done for elevators. So if you're controlling multiple floors and, Joe's only got the 4th and 7th floor that he's allowed to go to, when he swipes in the app, it'll only activate the relay for the floor he's going to. And then he can push the button in the car. This does have the jumpers on the board there to be the dry contact 12 or 24 volts out. Obviously, same thing applies that we talked about before. If you want 24 volts out of that relay, you have to power this with 24 volts. But if you're doing dry contacts to the elevator, you just throw that jumper in the middle, and each one of those becomes an output. Couple limitations on this. When you do set it up this way, you can only fire one of those relays at a time. So even if you're controlling 16 floors, the way that it's coded is it will only fire one relay at a time. So if I'm going to the 3rd floor and Andy's going to the 5th floor, if I swipe in the app at the exact same time he does, whoever swipes last is actually going to get control of that, even if it's programmed for 10 seconds. If somebody else swipes, it supersedes the one that was running. So just something to think about. We've had some customers actually do these on like lockers and things where only one guy can kind of stand in front of the lockers at a time. And that's not a big deal, but I wouldn't recommend putting a 1001 or a 1601 and 2 relays on 16 high traffic doors. You're going to get some upset people where it can only fire one at a time. So that's a limitation within the Axis programming of those. So it's not something on the Geokey end that limits that, but it's just the way that that's set up. Again, typically used for elevator control, but if you've got a custom solution like a set of lockers that people want to use access control on, we can get creative with that and help you put that together.
And that's a perfect transition then. I believe coming up next is really diving into Noki. So actually, yeah, we'll wrap up here with this O3C integration. So kind of what we touched on earlier with the programming of these controllers, we can quickly set that up. See the bottom of the screen, we use the Mac and the Oak that's on those access controllers. We have those pre-programmed into our portal, so everything works seamlessly. So Another nice thing, if you guys have been installing Axis products for a while, you can go back now and almost cross sell those current customers that have those Axis panels in, because we can easily transition those over to Geokey powered doors. So something to think of, whether you guys do have them, go out, talk to those customers, let them know that Geokey is a mobile access credential and that it's a matter of switching over to the Geokey licensing, getting rid of their key fobs. You guys can send a tech out to program that controller within a matter of a couple of minutes, and get that transition right over using the O3C integration with Axis.
I know right now anybody that's put those in and say, man, we threw those papers away. You can reach out to Access Support, and they ask for a little bit of information to verify that you actually bought that controller. But they will provide those oaks to you if you do not have them for some reason. They're going to want the serial number, and then I think they ask for like a purchase order from who you bought it from and a date, those type of things. So it is possible to get those for those existing controllers out there. It's just a little bit of work to contact their tech support.
So now we're jumping to Noki. So Noki, for those who aren't familiar, they are pretty much all purely Bluetooth powered devices. So super cost effective access control system for anything that is, we dominantly say any interior door, but we can do exterior doors. We'll get into some of those with their on wall controllers that are weather tested and all that fun stuff. What we did not highlight in this webinar today is their padlocks, just because there's no install on them. They're pretty straightforward. So if you guys have any questions on those, we can highlight those if you reach out to us. But today we just wanted to touch on really the three main controllers that we have with Noki, which is their in-wall battery backup, their in-wall hardwired, and their on-wall hardwired. So these are Bluetooth credentialed devices. There's no network connection. Anything that's needed for programming on these, we ship these right out from our office space here. So if you guys need these, they'd be coming from us. Already programmed, already the door name on it, because we send out that type form document again, so we know where they're going to. And they're just a great product for several different purposes. So one thing we've done with these two, and then I'll kind of let Shannon dive into it, is a lot of multifamily apartment complexes, in buildings with a lot of interior doors. These are perfect solutions for. I've even had some channel partners come back. They said, "Hey, we've quoted these on 30 unit condominium buildings, and we're looking about a $200 price savings per door with some of the hardware that's not needed on these because they're so easy." So also our first webinar back in November, I believe it was, Shannon, Brandon Peterson, their CEO and co-founder, myself, we actually ran through a live demo of how to actually install one of these. So you guys can reference that if you have any questions as well. But I'll kind of let Shannon take this away, and again, chime in if you guys have any questions with that Q&A section, and we'll keep going.
Yeah, so the Noki controllers are a long leap away from the Axis in the way that they function, but in the software for the customer, they don't know any different. It looks like an access point, whether regardless of what controller it is, and that's the beauty of one of the beauties of Geokey is the customer doesn't really know or care what controller they're using. They just want to be able to get in the door and use their phone to do it. So the couple of controllers we have highlighted here, the top one and the bottom one, are identical in the way the housing looks. But the difference is the top one is a hardwired, so 12 or 24 volts in. You can do that with as simple as a plug-in transformer, a wall wart, or you can put in a power supply. Again, if it's up to you guys as a standard, do you want individual power supplies? We've done apartment buildings where they've put an individual power supply in a closet in every apartment that powers those. We've done some where they run cable down the hall and they run all 8 apartments on that floor from one central power supply. Completely up to you guys how you want to do that. But 12 or 24 volts in, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out to the lock. So these do not have a dry contact on them. They're going to put voltage out or a wet output. It's going to be, again, 12 or 24 volt DC. Whichever you put in will come out. The contact on it's rated at 1.5 amps. So most of your lock sets are going to work off of that. The top one does have a battery backup in it. So inside there, there's actually 2 of the 18650 lithium ion batteries that will run the controller in the event of that power source not working. The controller does go to sleep after 30 seconds. So you tap the front or wave your hand real close in front. There's a little motion sensor in there that sees a couple of inches, and that'll wake the controller up if it's on battery. So that's a good way for the customer to know, hey, if that thing's not lit up, we've lost our power source. But it will function on those batteries depending on the number of unlocks. The average time that it would run on those batteries is about 3 months. So you've got quite a while to get out there and service that if it's in a pretty remote location. The bottom one is a battery only. So that actually has a large lithium ion. It looks like a D cell battery, but it's not. It's a lithium ion 4-volt battery, I think is what it is. It will power 12-volt locks, again, up to 1.5 amps. And that's one that you can use out at a gate or somewhere, maybe a outbuilding that doesn't even have power to it. That battery is rated to last 18 to 24 months based on a couple of unlocks a day. So you've got options there. If you've got power, obviously hardwire is usually best to provide power to those controllers. The other thing is these don't have to be mounted at reader height. They're Bluetooth, so your phone has to be close. You have to be within proximity. We usually tell people 10 to 15 feet. But you could mount it on the ceiling or up above the door frame to make your install a little easier if you so choose. And then the last one, the one in the middle there, is the on-wall hardwired. So that's surface mounted, where these actually fit in the wall. And back up just a little bit, we actually created a ring that you can cut a 3.5-inch hole saw and drop that into the drywall for those in-wall controllers. It is pretty deep. We also make a double gang ring for that, but if you're doing that, you have to use a double gang box that does not have a back on it because it's almost 4 inches deep with the battery backup in there. Carlon makes a great double gang that's got an open back, and we can get you guys a part number for that if you're interested. I don't have that handy right now. But the on wall is a surface mount. A couple screws hold that on right. Drill your hole for your wire, and that's typically used on the outside of a building on brick or an uneven surface where it doesn't make sense for me to be able to take that 3.5-inch hole saw and cut a hole in the wall.
Yeah, no, looks like we got a question. What is the temperature rating on the Noki IWBO? That's that bottom one. And perfect transition. You have those on the next slide. So perfect timing.
So operating temp, they say is down to -40. I would not recommend that you put that on the outside of the building with that mounting ring because it is not waterproof. We do have a couple of customers that have taken the controller. So let me back up a slide here to show you. So we can take the controller here. I think that's a 2.25-inch hole. If you cut it like that, we made this ring that works as kind of like an old work box where it's got the little tabs that pop up for the 3.5-inch ring. But a 2.25-inch ring will cut this, and then you just take that ring off that we made. We've had some customers take a NEMA box, like a 6x6x8 type of box, NEMA 4X rated. I've actually got one on the bench right now that we're doing a custom project for somebody that we're testing. That they've mounted that weatherproof box on the outside, and then you could mount this guy right to that. There is an O-ring that seals up the front face of it. So if you're going to mount it outside, you take off that plastic ring that we have on it, and you'd mount it just like it looks here. But they do rate it down to -40 or a low temp rating.
Now, there's a question to a second part for the battery. Would that come into play as well? Same.
It's supposed to, yeah, still be able to operate at that temperature is what they tell us. Obviously, if you're out in a cold space like that, in a freezer or something where it's consistently that low, it's probably going to cut down on the length of battery that you get out of that. That's something I can follow up with the manufacturer with Noki on that and find out what they rate that for. If they've got a chart that shows, if I had it at a -20 all the time, how fast is my battery drain?
Yeah. And also too, just actually got a question this morning while talking to a channel partner of ours of, how easy are these to rip off the wall? On some of those first photos and on this one, you can see on the far left, that exterior ring is more of a protective layer as well, where we have special made, 5-point magnets that go along those. So you can't turn that dial to see the inside face of it unless you have that 5-point magnet aligned. Otherwise, that piece will not twist off. Same thing with the wall-mounted ones, or the in-wall ones, I should say. That ring that goes around them there in the first slide that we showed, we have another special kind of puck tool that will actually then remove that. So Unless you're hammering into the wall to rip that thing off,
Yeah.
there's really no way to get your fingers or any nail really underneath that.
These face plates screw on, and they've got some fingers underneath there that basically make them one way. When you're screwing them on, you actually hear them click, and then they won't turn back to the left to take them off unless you have that special. There's actually 5 magnets down inside that face plate, and so we made a little tool that we send out for your installers that they can use to take that faceplate back off to service them. But you can't just go up there and unscrew it and pull it out of the wall. The faceplate on the in wall and on wall are the exact same faceplate too.
So that kind of wraps up, the main controllers. Again, if you guys have any questions still, we'll go on for another couple of minutes and then let you guys all go here. But if any questions pop up on those Noki controllers, feel free to throw those in the chat as well. Again, those Noki controllers are great for really any interior door, exterior door, low cost on those. And again, to what Shannon pointed on earlier, to the users, they look the exact same. So it's Geokey is used as a one-stop shop where folks can go into an apartment complex and unlock the garage door. Garage door comes up for them, still using Geokey. They can get in the elevator using Geokey. They can get in the stairwell using Geokey and their individual apartment room, all from 2 to 3 different types of controllers. So to the user and even the business owner, they will never tell a difference as to which device they're using. And it's all a seamless kind of one-stop shop within their Geokey mobile app.
A couple things to highlight there too. When we do like a multi-use space, whether it be a multifamily building or even an office building, um, a lot of times we see people use the access controller on the outside doors.
Yep.
So if you're a manager or an admin on the system, you can unlock those doors from anywhere, right? It's a network-based command. If you're sitting at home on the couch or you're in your apartment sitting on the couch and Grubhub or DoorDash or one of those companies shows up, right? You don't have to get up. You can unlock that exterior door of the building for them to unlock the individual unit or maybe your office. That's where people will use that Noki or the Bluetooth controller because they are a lower cost, uh, allows them to do more doors than they typically would on the access control system. But those are Bluetooth only, right? So you have to be within proximity for those. So you've got a lot of flexibility there on how you configure the system. But that's what we see a lot of times is those exterior doors, people will usually use the access, and you don't have to drill anything to the outside of the building at all, right? You just hang your lock and tie it back into your controller, and then the Nokias get used a lot on that interior door. You can do scheduled unlocks with the access controllers too if you want it to be unlocked Monday through Friday from 7 to 5, those type of things. The Noki controllers, you cannot do any scheduling because those controllers don't actually have a time clock or a way for the controller itself to keep time. The lock output on these is 5 seconds too, and that's not anything that we can change. So they're kind of that down and dirty entry level door controller, but they certainly function well. And like Andy said, we see those used a lot on kind of those low volume doors for people to add access control where they probably wouldn't have put it on. They would have just left it a key before.
And what we can do too is we can still lock out users at certain times of those Noki devices.
Yep.
So because the Geokey portal is the device that's communicating to our app, these controllers are not holding any of this information. So since your phone is a credential, if I don't want an employee to get into a server room that has a Noki product on, I don't want them to get in past 5 p.m. I can block off access to tell their credential on their phone, hey, you can't open this door past 5 p.m. So if they walk up and they're within range, typically it should show up between the hours that I set them. But since they showed up late, it's not going to show up for them and it's not even going to let them swipe. So we can set those limitations. We just can't do the automatic unlock like at our office here. We leave our office doors unlocked between business hours every day.
Yep.
Those are powered by access controllers. So we don't have to worry about dogging down the crash bar or anything like that, or unlocking the doors at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. Those automatically lock up for us because we have those set up on a scheduling feature within our Geokey portal. So again, that kind of wraps up the controllers. So kind of the nice things that we're looking forward to, as well as our future integrations. Carry Systems and Miracom here is coming very soon this year. So finalizing those will be integrated controllers and products with us. You'll see down below, Hello Gym. We got our start in the gym industry. Brandon, our CEO and co-founder, he ran 24-hour gyms, and this is kind of how that idea got brought to the table. So we found a sweet spot and a really good integration with the Hello Gym company. They will work with those membership-based facilities that have the automatic bill pay set up. So if someone doesn't pay their gym membership or their whatever membership, it's going to automatically cut off access to their Geokey mobile app. So that's another one that's coming. And then I believe the next page, we have another integration that we're working on for these smart handles. So Geokey smart handles will be perfect, super quick and easy, just a handle set. They're gonna have handle sets. They're gonna have deadbolts. These will go right into the door. Really quick and easy install. Bluetooth based. We'll have, I believe, the hubs to be able to allow them to be unlocked from anywhere with that local, just like your Google Home or those types of devices do. And then you'll see the key override is in the end of the handle there. So, um, Shannon, anything you want to touch on these? I know
I
you've
would
been
I
heavily
would
involved in
say
this.
back here on the Carry and Mercom, obviously those are companies that have been around a long time, right? That's where you're going to be able to kind of lay Geokey over the top and provide that mobile credential. Um, the beauty of how we do the mobile credentialing, right, is we charge per door, not per user.
Yep.
So in a lot of places where they've got a lot of users, it makes a ton of sense for us to partner with them and them to partner with us to provide that mobile credential as kind of that overlay on those systems. So we'll have a little more on that to come in the next probably 30 to 60 days as we finish those integrations. On the handle sets there, those are going to be something I see for a lot of what I'd call brownfield or existing buildings that you want to go back and add access control somewhere. Again, that price point on these is going to be where normally somebody wouldn't have done access control, but for a few $100s,
Yeah.
they'll go ahead and do those doors. So we're excited about that. This will probably be late Q2 or early Q3. Bluetooth is built into the handle, so again, close proximity. They also have an option, like Andy was
Yep.
saying, with a hub that would tie into the Wi-Fi network if there's Wi-Fi available, and give an option for that unlock from anywhere. If you've got a project like that, let's discuss it. I know we're looking at those type of things for a lot of apartment buildings, and most of those, like today, the existing one doesn't offer building-wide Wi-Fi, so we use the Bluetooth only there. But that's an exciting piece to come here.
Yeah. So kind of to wrap up, get a lot of feedback from channel partners and from customers. We take that very seriously, and we really advise our channel partners to be vocal with us and let us know what they're seeing in the industry, what they're seeing in the field. So that all goes back to the nice thing about being a software company here at Geokey is we can look into those future and next integrations. We can listen to our current partners, our customers, and see what they like. Then we always have the option to explore those. So if you guys have questions in the future on anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. If you want to see a more in-depth overview of the portal, of the mobile app, anything else, if you want to hear more on the channel partner program that we offer, we do a revenue share with the licensing cost for the life of that customer. So however many doors you guys are installing with Geokey, you will take a portion of that licensing cost again for the life of that customer. No minimums, no sales quotas, anything like that. We want to partner with you guys to bring you more business, help out with your existing and future business, and be better partners together. So if there's any questions at all, you can reach out to us. Otherwise, the next slide here will have my direct line. If you guys have any questions, you can always call me, email me, whatever we can help with. Otherwise, you can go out to our website. There's a requested demo portion in there. We got some request information. If you're a customer, you're a business owner, someone that wants to use Geokey in your establishment, also, you can reach out to us. We'll set you guys up with a sales rep to run through an overview and see how we can help. So, Shannon, any final words?
No, I think that's it. Thank you guys for your time today. And if you do think of anything, reach out to us on the website, email Andy, or put a support request in, and we're happy to help.
Awesome.
One thing I guess that I will cover, our support team. We do offer support to all of the end users for any issue that they might have with their app. And our support is available during the week. We do 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday Central Time. But we do offer after hours. It'll create a ticket in our system too. And our average response time, even in the after hours, is in the last 30 days, it's been 45 minutes. That includes our after hours support. So we do make sure that we're watching those tickets and help those customers use the app to get into wherever they need to go. So it's one thing we take very serious is our customer service, and proud to say that we do a really good job on that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining us today, and we'll hopefully be in touch soon. Thank you, guys.
Have a good day.